Thanks for watching Afternoon Live. Menopause brings so many changes to a woman's body. One of the most frustrating can be weight gain. Here with help, we welcome the author of Is This Normal? Judgment-Free Straight Talk About Your Body, Dr. Jolene Brighten. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me. Such a pleasure to be here.
I love that judgment-free is in the title because there are things we can control and there's things we can't, and we're just going to kind of figure this out together.
Absolutely. So well said.
So let's talk about the hormonal shifts that happen in this time of our lives. There are some things that maybe we anticipate and some things we don't, and we might end up looking differently.
I think the important thing to understand is that weight gain can happen to all of us as we age, but it's the distribution of fat that is unique to menopause. And that's because as estrogen levels drop, this triggers a shift in our fat storage patterns. That's where we see more accumulation in the belly, what people will call menobelly or menopause belly fat. And in medicine, we call it visceral adiposity, that is fat that is being distributed around your organs. Now, the good news is that research has shown that estrogen replacement therapy can help attenuate the accumulation of that belly fat.
That's exciting. Well, and then what about muscle mass too? Because that can also be in flux.
Oh, absolutely. Such a great point. So, aging in general naturally leads to a loss of muscle. This is a process called sarcopenia. And so, when we lose muscle, we see that our metabolism can slow and it can also contribute to fat gain. This is why it is so important with the changing menopausal hormones and the aging process that leads to muscle loss that women engage in regular strength training. We typically recommend a minimum of 3 times a week for postmenopausal women.
And I think a lot of people might still be resistant to that. I don't want to bulk up. I don't want to put on these huge muscles. But I think the research has shown, like you've said, it's so beneficial for our bodies.
Absolutely. Research backs this up in a big way, showing that regular resistance training can make a real difference in maintaining muscle health and metabolic health overall. When we lose muscle mass, we can become less sensitive to insulin as well. So it can be a substantial risk factor for developing cardiometabolic disease. And if you are worried about bulking up, I assure you, you just are not designed to bulk up, and it takes a lot of effort to get that way.
For sure. And you mentioned insulin, this concept of insulin resistance, I think a lot of us are learning about right now. Can this kind of develop over time and during menopause or perimenopause?
You know what? The current statistics tell us is that about 31% of women in the US are pre diabetic, but only about 14% are actually aware of it. And this risk climbs as we enter into menopause because that abdominal fat accumulation that we see with the loss of estrogen will put us at increased risk for insulin resistance and diabetes. And here's really the vicious cycle. As insulin resistance develops, then the likelihood of gaining belly fat increases as well.
So we have some options and positive ways to move forward. You can make some changes to your nutritional and diet that you eat every day, and that can be really beneficial.
Absolutely. So I talk about this in my book. There's 2 things that women can do that the research has shown us have such a positive impact on their metabolic health and also on their body composition. So number 1 is aiming to eat a minimum of 25 grams of fiber per day. So most Americans are getting less than half of that. We really need to be incorporating things like chia seeds, avocados, leafy greens, fresh ground flax seeds into our meals daily. The other thing you want to do is limit the added sugar to less than 25 grams a day. So it's really easy to remember. 25 grams of fiber, less than 25 grams of added sugar. And I'm not talking about fruit. I'm talking about when you look at the label and it says added sugar, we want to reduce that intake. Keeping it below the 25, that can really help shift the belly fat accumulation, but also your overall cardiometabolic health.
Yeah, that seems pretty accessible and a good place to start for a lot of people. You mentioned the estrogen replacement earlier. What about folks who might have some worries about a family history in terms of breast cancer and going down that route?
Absolutely. So you always want to discuss your individualized risk factors with your provider. There are certain people who are not candidates for hormone replacement therapy, and there are others that, while they do have a family history, they can still use it at a lower dose, or maybe we're using it in a different way. So it's very, very important. I encourage everybody to talk with your provider because they know you best and they know your history best, and they can help guide and advise you on what's the best treatment for your current state of health and your goals.
I think one of the simplest things, but maybe one of the hardest shifts to make that we hear all the time is just getting more sleep. It sounds simple, but it's not so easy to implicate in our lives all the time.
Absolutely. And anybody who is in perimenopause or has made the transition into menopause, they will absolutely eye roll at me when I say you need to get more sleep because it's hard, especially as progesterone drops. That's our first hormone to go in the perimenopausal transition. And it stimulates the GABA receptor in our brain, that's what makes us feel chill. We feel calm. We just feel in love with life. So you may need progesterone as a hormone replacement therapy to help you get that sleep. But there's certainly other things that you can try, like making sure you have a healthy sleep routine, that you're going to bed at a decent hour, your bedroom is cool, especially important if you have hot flashes, and that it's dark. So all the things that really your mom probably told you when you were a child, you really want to anchor into those. And so I really encourage anyone, sleep is one of the most underappreciated factors in weight management. And so if you need some motivation, I'll tell you this. Poor sleep has a direct impact on the hormones that control hunger and our ability to feel full. And that leads to overeating and ultimately weight gain. So it's usually one of the missing puzzle pieces for people who are looking at optimizing their body composition.
Makes sense. Hey, thank you so much for joining us. That was great information.
Yeah, it was fantastic being here. Thank you so much for the
Of course.
opportunity.
Yeah, Dr. Brighten's book again is This Normal? And we'll have more information on our website at katu.com.